friends, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a very cozy sit-down style chat, get to know each other a bit better type video. I thought since I have been on YouTube for a bit now, it would be fun to do just a super casual chit-chat style video. I have a bunch of questions from you all that I am going to get to today, and hopefully by the end of this video, we will be a bit more acquainted. So grab a cozy drink, a coffee or a tea, settle in, grab a blanket, and let's get started. I have a whole list here of the questions that you all asked. You asked some really good ones, and I am excited to get started. And I thought we would start with the basics. Where were you raised and where does your family live? I am actually a born and raised Texas girl. I grew up in a suburb of Dallas called Plano, Texas, and I lived there my whole life up until I was 18 and I went to college. My family, they still live in the Dallas area. It's nice me being in Austin because we are pretty close to each other. It's about a 3.5-hour drive, so it's nice that they are nearby, and it's also really nice because Chris's family lives in the Dallas area as well. After I turned 18, I went to college. I went to University of Missouri. My first year, I was studying journalism, but it wasn't quite a good fit at that school. So I transferred my second year to University of Arkansas, and I switched to being a fashion merchandise major, which is very fitting because I love fashion, as I'm sure you could tell. And that was a big passion for me. So that was really when I feel like I was coming into my own. I loved University of Arkansas so much. Why did you move to New York City and why did you leave? So as you may know, I did live in New York City for a while after college. You all watched my New York City book crawl video. You could probably tell just how much I love and adore that city, but I just moved there after college since I studied fashion. That was where my passion was, and I just moved there with not much of a plan. I had a friend who had a room open up, and being young, wild, and free, I was like, I'm gonna move there and see if it works. And I was willing to be flexible. Like if it wasn't gonna work out, I was going to leave, but I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot and see how I like it. I had finished college, an internship and a job. I was living in Philly for a bit, for about like 6 months before I moved to New York. I was basically a free agent for the first time in my life, and it ended up going really well. I loved New York. I loved the city. That is also when I really leaned into being a content creator. We called them bloggers at the time. I'll get into that in a bit, but that was where I really leaned into that. I got acquainted with the industry of being an influencer. I had a bunch of creator friends, and it was a really great stepping stone to get me to where I am today. And after being there for about 4 years, I moved back to Texas just to be a bit closer to family and to live somewhere a bit more sustainable. You know, I was in my 20s and New York is a very expensive place to live, and it just got kind of tough. So I wanted to go somewhere that was closer to my family, but still somewhere that I was excited to live in, somewhere new. Austin really fit the bill. If you've been to Austin, we have tons of music, fun festivals, just unique people and experiences. And I just didn't see myself moving back to the Dallas area. So I chose Austin, and it's really stuck because I have been here for almost 10 years, which is so crazy to think. Time has really flown by there. Would you ever consider moving to the Northeast? The simple answer is yes. I would love to live in the Northeast. I feel like the Northeast has everything that is quintessential to me and my personality, like all of the seasons. The fall on the East Coast is just so dreamy. It is so beautiful up there. I love that wherever you live, there are so many cities nearby that you can go to and explore. It is honestly just a place where I moved to and immediately felt like myself there. Living in the Northeast was such an incredible experience that I definitely would love to go back someday at some point. I feel like a big thing that keeps me in Texas is my family, as well as Chris's family. They live here as well, and I just love being near both families. We're really close with both of our parents. I love Chris's parents and his family, so that is the biggest thing that really keeps me here. Aside from I do genuinely love Austin as well, but that is is a big thing that keeps me in Texas. However, a girl does like to dream, and I feel like eventually the dream for me would be to live in any city near New York City to where I can take a train into the city, because I don't want to live in New York again. I think I've grown too accustomed to the lifestyle of living, outside of a city like that. So I don't think I would want to live in the city, but living near it so I could have access to it, to the most beautiful city in the world anytime I want. That would be a dream. I think that would definitely be a dream. Okay, this is a fun question. What inspires your style? So I have always been a fashion girl. My style, whether it's through my decor or through my outfits, my makeup, my hair, it has always just been a creative outlet for me and a way to express myself. It might be very basic, but a big thing that inspires my style is just the seasons that we're in. I really love to switch up my style and my decor seasonally, and I feel like at the start of each season, I get such a burst of energy. One of my favorite times of year to dress is always the fall and the winter. That does have my heart, but I feel like at the beginning of any season, I just get really excited to go look at my closet of the seasons past and put various outfits together. It is just so fun for me. I also love turning to Pinterest, of course, for style. What heavily influences my style today is the twee aesthetic from the 2010s. That was a time in my life where I felt like super assured, like self-assured in my style, and it felt just very me. And I feel like today twee has kind of come back, but I just take little bits and pieces of it and modernize it to today's, world. As a girl who loves fashion, I don't think trends are everything, but I do like to keep up with the trends in general just because it's really fun for me. And of course, I love turning to TV shows and movies to get inspired by my style. Old Diane Keaton style. I love the fashion in When Harry Met Sally, 90s shows, 90s movies, Gilmore Girls, especially during the fall. I really get my inspiration from kind of like a jumbled mess, but it somehow works. Where do you buy your pretty dresses? I am truly a dress lover, if you cannot tell, and I find them at all sorts of places with varying price tags, but where I find myself shopping frequently is Free People. That's where I got this dress. Anthropologie, Hill House. I love to browse their site at the beginning of each season and maybe treat myself to one or two dresses, but they are one of my favorites, and their things are always beautifully made. Madewell, Old Navy, Gap. I love Doen. It is like my aspirational brand. It is just so lovely. Everything about it is perfection to me. They sometimes have Gap and Doen collabs. Those are incredible. I recently joined Nuuly, and it is really great because they have a ton of dresses from Anthropologie and Free People and things like that. So it is a great way to wear a bunch of dresses, a bunch of different kinds of dresses, and at the end of each month, you send them back and get another one. This is not an ad or anything, but it's just a new thing that I am excited about. I love the random Amazon find. I found some wonderful dresses there. The key there is to always read the reviews, and I would not buy anything less than like 4.2 stars. I would say 4.5 stars and above for an Amazon dress is the gold standard for me. And I would love to thrift dresses, but I am typically a size extra large and dresses are 14, 16. So it can be tough to thrift dresses. If you are a standard straight size, I would definitely hit up those thrift stores because there are a bunch of treasures there. How did you start content creation and why? So I started content creation way back in the day. It's very possible that you might have been here since then. This is before Instagram was even a thing. I created a blog. It was my passion. It was my baby. I was in college at the time, and it was my creative outlet from all my classes and, working a job. And it was just like my thing. I was obsessed with it. I would take pictures of my outfits around campus. I would use a tripod. This was back in the day. People were not doing that. I got a lot of very weird looks, but I just knew what I was doing. I just knew that it was something that really made me happy. And I found a community online as well of people who were blogging and sharing their outfits. And to me, I was like, this is the most normal thing. Like, me and all these girls are online getting creative and sharing what inspires us. And it was a very cool thing to be a part of. And I just fell in love with it right away. And as new platforms have come out, I have just pushed myself to grow and evolve with each platform, like, Instagram and TikTok, just really work to evolve, I guess, with the times. If something inspires you and if it makes you happy, if it brings out your creativity, I would say just go for it and ignore the haters. People are always going to think it is weird, but do what makes you happy. You never know where it will take you. What did you do for work prior to content creation? So like I said, I did start in college, but I most definitely did not go into full-time content creation right away. I have had several jobs over the years, but the one that stuck throughout most of my 20s was being a social media manager / content creator for companies and brands. Very fitting to what I did today, and a lot of that kind of led me to doing this full-time. Yeah. I've been a social media girly for my whole career now at this point, but I am grateful for doing the 9-to-5 life because I think it has helped me in becoming a content creator full time, because I do typically stick to that 9-to-5 schedule, and it taught me how to just keep structure, especially when having my own business. Have you ever had doubts about being a full-time content creator? You seem like such a natural. First of all, thank you so much. That is very nice. Promise it wasn't always that way. Yes, I did have doubts, actually. I was terrified to go full-time as a content creator, like next level terrified, to the point where I probably stayed at my job, I would say 2 years past the point that I needed to, because I was so terrified to take the leap and start working for myself. It is just a very scary thing because, when you work for a company, you have a steady paycheck, and when you work for yourself, you do contract work, and it's just, it can be up and down, and it's not the steady paycheck that I was used to. And of course, in America, if you have a job, they pay for your health insurance or help subsidize it. So I was frightened to pay for it myself and take that on, etc. So that leads me to when I did actually quit and pursue it full time. It was a solid, I would say, 2, maybe 2.5, 3 years of me making income as a content creator that was either the same as I was making at my job or higher, but basically that I was making enough money to go full time. I just had to prove it to myself over the course of a few years that this is something that is steady and this is something that is reliable. Just for me personally, I think if I did quit sooner, it totally would have been okay, but I just needed that proof to take the plunge and go into working for myself. But now here we are 3 years later from doing that. No, more than 3 years. 3.5 years of working for myself full time, and I love it so much. It was the best decision I ever could have made. There is no way that I would be sitting here with a YouTube channel talking to you all if I still worked my full-time job, because there would be no time in the world to do such a thing. So it has really opened so many doors with having the extra time to really lean into the content creation and just embrace it and give it my all, because I couldn't do that while I was working my full-time job. I basically had 2 full-time jobs for a few years. I'm so grateful that I had the extra time to start this channel, because it is just one of my favorite things. I love it here so much, and I love you guys so much. I just really do. What's your daily schedule like as a content creator? My daily schedule changes often. I don't really have set days that I do things, but it typically revolves around my shoot days and my computer work days, as I call them. So on shoot days, I am shooting either organic content, which is just the fun content that I get to post on TikTok, Instagram, of course, YouTube, or I'm shooting paid content, which is the branded content that I shoot. So those are the 2 things that I do on shoot days. So I would say probably 3, sometimes 4 days out of the week are shoot days, 3.5 days. And then computer work days is editing, going through emails and just making sure I zero out my inbox, maybe sourcing props for shoots to come. And then sometimes I have split days where I'm shooting half the day and then I am doing all the computer work and admin stuff the rest of the day. But I love it. I love that my job changes every single day. And I do typically like to keep it a 9-to-5 schedule, like I said before. So So I am typically working Monday through Friday, and I try my best to get everything done that time so I can have the weekends off, because when you do work for yourself, especially when you work from home, it can be very easy to overwork yourself, at least in my experience. I do try to keep it to that 9 to 5 schedule so that I can have time to slow down and do all the hobbies and things that I love. Okay, this one's fun. Not a question, but I would love to know more about your kitties. I love them so much. The kitties actually were Chris's cats. I am their new mommy, Mamacita.
Mamacita.
They were Chris's cats, and I have grown to be absolutely in love with them and obsessed with them. Roger is the oldest, and Chris adopted him at a shelter as a kitten, and he is so sweet. He is the alpha of the household. Roger is in charge of everything and everyone, not just Pierre and Towns, but me and Chris as well. But he is such a sweetie pie. He is so friendly, and he loves cuddles, and he is just a lover. He loves treats and food, and he is just so fun, and he is a very smart cat. And then Pierre, he has an interesting story. So he is a year younger than Roger, and he is a bit more timid and shy for good reason, because he was a Hurricane Harvey cat rescue. That was a hurricane in Houston, Texas. He was a rescue, and during COVID, Chris decided he wanted to foster a cat, and Pierre, he had been at the shelter for a year because no one wanted to adopt him because he was too feisty, which was likely just because he was so scared, you know, from the experience that he went through. Chris decided to take a chance on him and foster him and just get him out of the shelter. And, you know, it was such a good thing that he did, because I feel like cats that are feisty can be, you know, hard to navigate. I think if it was just me by myself, I think I might have been scared to take a feisty cat, because sometimes cats can be unruly. I had a cat prior as well, but he took a chance on Pierre, and he brought Pierre home, and he said that him and Roger were fighting for maybe like a week or so or something. And then at one point, Pierre was home, and Roger put his arm around him like he was about to wrestle him, but instead he started like kissing him, and they have just been inseparable ever since. They are in love with each other. Pierre, the timid one, really comes out of his shell with Roger, and Roger is his best friend. He follows him everywhere. It's like Pierre lives for Roger, and it is so sweet that Chris adopted both of them and adopted Pierre and took a chance and facilitated their love. That's what we like to call it, because they're truly in love with each other. And it was such a green flag that Chris adopted 2 cats, because I feel like a guy with cats, it's like, you know, they're a good guy, because cats are just not like dogs. You have to take the time with them. They don't warm up to you right away. You have to respect their boundaries. So that was such a green flag for me, and it definitely rang to be true. And the next one is for Towns. I'd love to know what breed your sweet pup is. I did a DNA test because Towns is a mix, and I found out that he is half Chihuahua, 50% according to the test, 19% poodle, which at first I was like, what? He doesn't look like a poodle, but I actually do see it in his face after learning that. 17% Shih Tzu, and the rest is a mix of Terrier. Towns is such a sweetie pie, and I'll just tell you his adoption story very quickly. I was actually at a event. It was for Bumble BFF, and it was a whole weekend. We were staying in a hotel downtown in Austin, and we were allowed to bring our best friends. So I had one of my best friends from Dallas come for the weekend, and they had various activities for us, and one of the activities was a few different volunteer options. So there was like a volunteer at a soup kitchen, and one of the options was to volunteer in animal shelters. I went, and I was joking with our Uber driver that I was going to leave with a dog, and I essentially did. I had no plans to get a dog. I already had a cat at the time, my sweet cat Eleanor, who passed. I loved her so much, but I met Towns, and he was just everything. I immediately bonded with him. I mean, like the second I met him, and it was just no question. I was like, I need this dog, and I was in a spot where I was able to adopt a dog, just like time-wise and where I lived, all the circumstances. I was really terrified if him and my cat would get along, because of course that's scary, introducing 2 animals who have never met, and I had never done that before, but they immediately loved each other. My cat was just so curious about him and just welcomed him right away, and it was great because it prepared towns for meeting cats. So whenever me and Chris moved in together, he had already met a cat before and already knew, somewhat of what cats are like. So that was perfect. If I could have 10 cats and 10 dogs, I definitely would. Okay, I thought it would be fun if we do just some rapid fire questions, 1-word answers-ish. What's your favorite drink? Coffee. What's your favorite movie ever? When Harry Met Sally. What's your favorite food? Pizza. What is your favorite book? Anne of Green Gables. How old are you? 36. Do you want kids? Yes, I think so. How excited for fall are you? I am very excited for fall. So excited. What's your favorite season? Fall. Do you have siblings? I have a brother, an older brother. What is your favorite area in the house? My bedroom. And lastly, favorite Disney character? Minnie Mouse. Okay, that was fun. I felt like I was a contestant on a game show or something. Moving on, we're gonna get into some questions about my fiance, Chris. How did you and Chris meet, and what was your first date? Me and Chris, we met on Hinge, a dating app. As you know, I'm sure you can tell, I am the biggest homebody ever, so I was a very good candidate for online dating. I honestly don't know how else I would have met someone. I mean, maybe if I would have met a man at Home Goods or like Michael's getting crafts. I mean, that seems kind of unlikely. It is possible. I had to go through many frogs to find my prince, like too many. But to be honest, I am grateful because it made me appreciate someone like Chris so much more. But yeah, we met on Hinge and we were talking for a few weeks because he was out of the country. It was very fun. We were messaging back and forth like you got mail style with these like long, almost like emails because he was out of the country working. So we were just talking at the end of each of his like work day. And I was so excited to meet him, like next level excited. It had been 2 weeks and we really hit it off over messaging. So I was terrified to meet him on our first date, like heart beating, planned my outfit for a week, like so excited to meet this man to the point where whenever I walked up and I saw him, we were talking, but I was completely like blacking out because I was just so nervous. But I had to stop him and be like, I'm sorry, I am really nervous because I felt like I was acting like an alien. We got pizza at a restaurant in Austin called Bufalina, and it is one of our favorites to this day. And it is so special because it is where our first date was. I love that he chose a restaurant that was cute, that I already liked. I was like, okay, he has good taste. We got pizza. We got a mushroom pizza. We split a Caesar salad. We were chit-chatting all night. I loosened up a bit. He loosened up a bit. We went afterwards to a bar in Austin called Little Longhorn Saloon. They have Western music and it's just a fun vibe. We were having a great time and yeah, the rest is history, as they say. But it was a great first date and I really liked him from the start. What does Chris do for work? Chris works in advertising. He is a copywriter and he is a creative director. As of about a year ago, he got that promotion. So proud of him. Yeah, he's super creative. And I also love that he works in an industry that is somewhat parallel to mine, working with brands. And I essentially work in advertising in a way, but on the content creation side, we speak the same language in that regard. While we do very different jobs, it is nice to know where each other is coming from and having that like frame of reference to just know what each other does. It's very cool. Okay, this one's super sweet. You and Chris are such a good pairing and he seems like an excellent cook, which he is. I love that that was clocked. Could you do a cozy cook with us video one day? I actually think that that is so fun. I have been wanting to do a flavors of fall video this upcoming season where I just cook all day and make desserts and drinks and food that is fall inspired, and that would actually be really fun to do with Chris because he is a very good cook and he really enjoys it. I love to bake, he loves to cook. It is the perfect combo, so that would be really fun. I think that is a really good idea. If I end up doing that video, I will see if Chris is down. I'm sure he will be. That is another thing about him. He is super supportive of my content creation and of YouTube. He is my biggest cheerleader and like my number one fan. I'm very lucky. Where are you and Chris going on your honeymoon? We are going to do a mini moon after the wedding, just something like 3 days or so, a little trip just to unwind. And we haven't picked the location yet. The wedding is coming up, so we need to get on that one very quickly. But yeah, we're gonna do something very short after the wedding together, something special. And then we are planning to go on our honeymoon in the spring of 2026, and we would like to go overseas for that trip. And so far, the number one contender that I think we are going to end up going with will be a trip to Japan, which is somewhere that we've always wanted to go, and we feel like that would be a super special location for the honeymoon that we would never forget. And since we are going out of the country, I wanted to be something in the spring. That way we have time to decompress and really enjoy it to the fullest. But yeah, Japan is the number one contender right now. If not Japan, likely somewhere in Europe. We went to Paris once together and we loved it so much. So something along those lines. I'm excited to see your wedding. Thank you. Will you have live videos? So I haven't decided yet how I want to approach videos during my wedding week, and especially during the wedding. I have a professional videographer who is definitely going to be making a long video that I do intend on posting on YouTube, but that will definitely be several months down the line after he edits it after the wedding. But I do intend on posting that. I do have a content creator for my wedding day that's going to be taking content for Instagram and TikTok, but for YouTube, I'm not exactly sure what I want to do yet. I might also hire a YouTube videographer so that way they could just get clips for me, because since I do share so much of my life and a lot of my, days are spent with content creation, on the day of my wedding, I do not want to record anything, so that way I can be as present as possible. If I do record stuff, it would probably be just minimal, maybe my thoughts or candid moments like that, but definitely nothing, that I'm going to be setting up my camera equipment and things like that. So I'm trying to decide how to do it. Let me know if you all would like, a wedding week vlog, maybe just leading up to the wedding. I can share what the days are looking like. I'm sure it's going to be so crazy, but let me know if that is something you all are interested in, aside from the long video that will be posted on YouTube a few months after the wedding. Growing up as a child, were you always creative? I have always had the desire and need to express myself creatively. I always loved as a kid, like coloring and doing art, things like that. I liked making like fashion catalogs. I would do this thing where I would draw and, make up little like fashion magazines, things like that. I've always had a need and desire to express myself creatively. I personally believe I do not have the God-given talent of painting and making art in that regard, or playing music, or things like that. I love art and I love music, but I feel like for a while I was kind of struggling with finding my creative outlet, something that I was good at, that I could create, that I could make something beautiful, if that makes any sense. And I feel like I have found that today with content creation on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok, and just making beautiful videos. That is where my heart is. That is one of my passions. It just makes me so happy to be able to create and express myself in that way. And I'm just so grateful that I found it, because I feel like for a long time on social media, it was taking a lot of photos. That was the thing to do. And while I loved that and it was a way to create, it didn't quite hit in the way that video has for me. It is just something that I love to do, and a creative passion that I just feel in my soul. So I'm so grateful that I have found it, and I just love to create. It's just something that I truly, truly, truly love. How did your mom and dad meet? Can you tell us about your Persian side? My mom is Persian. I'm half Persian. My dad is Texan. No, but he has like German descent, Irish descent, but he is from Texas. So both my parents, they met at the University of Texas in Austin, where I live today. That is where they met, and they fell in love. My mom moved to America from Iran. She lived there until her 20s. She moved to America to go to college and to get an education here, which is something that my grandpa in Iran, he really believed in education and he wanted the best for his family and for his daughters and sons. So she moved here. She knew nobody. She had some family here that had already moved here from Iran. She was intending on just going to college here and then moving back to Iran, but she met my dad and they fell in love and she stayed here. So my mom stayed in America. My mom is very smart. She is a physics professor. She has her PhD in physics. She is amazing and so inspiring, and I do think that I get a lot of my work ethic from her and from my dad. My dad is an accountant, and yeah, they just are a great match. My family is very numbers driven. My brother, he is a computer science. He got his PhD in computer science, so they're all very, numbers driven and things like that. And with all the academics and getting their PhDs, that is not my forte. I have always hated math and science. I just never liked it. I tried hard to do well in it, and even with me trying my absolute best, I was still terrible at the maths and the sciences. So I'm glad that I don't have to do that in my daily life today. And then my Persian side, I still have a lot of family in Iran, but I have a lot of family that moved here and stayed here from Iran. I love my Persian side. Whenever I was younger, my mom, she would take me to Iran with her. We would go on trips, and it's just the most beautiful place, and I miss it so much. I hope to go back one day. Persian people are just the most warm, inviting people that you will ever meet. If you tell them that you like something, you're like, oh, I love that perfume. What are you wearing? They're like, oh, here it is. Take it. Have it. That's how Persian people are. And I'm just really grateful that I have that side, and I love being half Persian. It's great. Is your new house your forever home, or will you move at some point? So whenever we first moved into this home, I kind of figured that it wouldn't be our forever home. There are many things about this house that I love. I love the layout. We do have 4 bedrooms, which is incredible for 2 people and their cats and dogs. 2 of our bedrooms are very small, I will say that. But we have 4 bedrooms, we have 3 bathrooms. Again, I'm coming from an apartment, okay? My apartment, I had 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, living room. So that was what I had. And I love that apartment so much. So no shade to that apartment. Coming from that, I was like, I live in a mansion. I was like, there's so much space here. But being here for a bit, there's some things that I feel like go against it being the forever home. Like I said, 2 of the bedrooms are quite small. So if we did have kids, I think that over time it might start to feel a little small. I do think that if we had 4 bedrooms that were all normal size and big, and 3 bathrooms, I honestly think that could work for forever. But I think since they are so small, it's not really feasible for more than 1 kid, that's for sure, to live in 2 of the rooms. Like one of the rooms, my office, could be converted to a room for a kid, but then I wouldn't have my office anymore. So it would be nice, eventually to be able to have that. And this is just, like a want, not a need, but I feel like certain aesthetics of the home, I think for my forever home, I would maybe want more windows. I think I would want more light. I think I would like a house that is facing west, so that way we could get the sunset. Those are just little things. I mean, those are just nice to have, but I do think that we will be here for a while, and I really am growing to love this house so much, especially with all of the customizations that we made. It's like we are turning it into our dream home. It wasn't our dream home when we moved in, but we are turning it into one. And lastly, the location. When I first moved to this area, there's a part of Austin that is like my dream, and I am in love with it. It is where my last apartment was. It is called Hyde Park. It is my obsession. I just feel like when I lived there, I was like, everything is right in the world. This is where I am meant to be. So I miss that neighborhood a lot. But as I have been living in this neighborhood for longer, I am really growing to love it. I love our neighbors. It is very homey. So that is less of a need at this point in time. To answer your question, after all that rambling, I don't think it is our forever home. How do you stay grounded when things get busy and stressful? Life for me has been very busy and stressful lately, so this is a good question. What I have been doing the past few years to stay grounded during this busy time in my life really is embracing the hobbies that I love. That is really what gets me through all of my stress, like reading or coloring or gaming or crafting. That just soothes my soul. A lot of times I do those activities that turn my brain off completely, and that is a great de-stressor for me. Reading has always been a great de-stressor. It gets me out of my head and out of worrying about the stress. And another tool that I use when I am just super stressed and overwhelmed is to just stay present and take things one moment at a time, because one of the biggest ways that I stress out is knowing that I have a really big to-do list for the day, and then thinking about, wait, my to-do list for the week, and then, oh my gosh, my to-do list for the month, and then I get so overwhelmed, and then sometimes that makes me completely shut down, like I want to do nothing. But taking things step by step, staying present in the moment, and maybe blocking off time to tackle certain things, you can slowly get your to-do list done, and it gets a lot less overwhelming when you slow down and take it day by day. All right, we're getting to the nitty-gritty. Isn't it expensive to switch out decor seasonally? The short answer is yes, it definitely is and can get expensive. I will say I have been doing this for, I want to say like over 5 years at this point. I've been doing the seasonal swap where I swap everything out at each season. You know, when spring is over, I go to the fall, and then I go to Christmas, and then I go back to fall. So I usually do 3 full-blown swaps of decor each season. Sometimes I switch things from spring to summer a bit, but yes, it's definitely more expensive to live that way. And I don't think that everyone needs to by any means. I will say that doing it over time really helps, because since I have done this over the course of several years, I have tons of items that I repurpose throughout the years. Of course, I do like to go do my Halloween hunting and things like that and grab a few new key pieces, but the majority of my stuff is stuff that I have been reusing from the last season or reusing over the course of several years. And with that being said, it is part of my job to swap things out seasonally. So because of that, I'm a bit more serious about it. But I do feel like on the norm, you know, there's no need to swap out everything seasonally, unless it makes you happy, of course, because it does make me really happy. How do you store all of your decor? I get asked that a lot. It is a common question that I get asked, and I do have a storage unit where I keep all of my seasonal decor. Fall decor will be coming out very soon. I'm so excited. So whenever that happens, I will swap out for all my fall decor in my storage unit. I will bring it to my house, and as I'm putting it out, I will use those bins to put all of my spring decor in, store it back, and then do the same thing for Christmas once it's Christmas decor. And I'm constantly on a little rotation of what items I have in the storage unit. The storage unit is wonderful. It is about $100 a month, which is, you know, kind of pricey. Again, that's another commitment to having seasonal decor. If you don't have a garage, like I don't have that space, it is a commitment to store it, but it helps me keep my sanity. I don't think I would be able to store it here. Honestly, I think at this point it's too much stuff to store here. So I have storage unit. It is wonderful. My last 2 apartments came with storage units. That was so nice because it was like $20 a month for each storage unit. And my last apartment, the storage unit was free. That was amazing. I love that as well because I could just go downstairs and grab it, but that is not my reality at the moment. So I have my storage unit. If you could have any kind of pet, what would it be? I can answer that question right away, and it is a black cat. I have wanted a black cat for ages. I still want a black cat, but I think that my 3 men that I have right now would be quite grumpy if I added another animal to the mix. So I'm not going to at the moment, but I just dream of having a black cat. I want nothing more than a black cat. I already know what I want to name her. I want to name her Juniper and call her June or Junie, and it would just be so cute. Have you considered a Patreon or a book club? Yes, I definitely have considered that, especially as time has gone on here on YouTube. I would love a way to be able to like get to know each other a bit more and to have some sort of community event, even if it's online. I think that would be so fun. With the wedding right now, I don't have the time to do such a thing, but I would love to do that in the future. Let me know if you all are interested in that. I know without a doubt that we all have so much in common. So I think it would be really cool if we could all hang out and all meet each other. Like if you guys could become friends, I just think that would be wonderful. And I definitely hope to have time to do that at some point in the future. So yes, please let me know if that is something that you're interested in. Out of all your hobbies, which is your favorite? I actually do play favorites when it comes to my hobbies, and my number one for the past several years is reading. Whenever life gets very stressful, reading is still my number one and the hobby that I always prioritize. Whenever I finish a book, I immediately start a new one. I always like to have a book that I'm reading. It is just the most calming for me, the most soothing, and the hobby that I am most passionate about. And if I had to pick a number two, it would probably be puzzling. And the best combo is puzzling with an audiobook because that combines my two favorite hobbies. Do you ever get nervous talking to the camera? Let me just tell you, whenever I first started YouTube, even sometimes today, I will be talking to the camera and it will sound like a bunch of gibberish because yes, I do get nervous sometimes. Sometimes I just get in my head and I just can't get out what I'm trying to say. But with that, I will say I have gotten way better with time. I have grown leaps and bounds since whenever I first started YouTube and today with talking to the camera, and it has become somewhat of second nature now. I feel like I don't overthink it, and I feel like lately I have been able to be a lot more like myself in front of the camera because that is a big obstacle for me because when I am nervous, I can't be myself and I feel like I'm not coming off authentically talking to the camera because of the nerves. I'm very happy that with practice it's gotten better and I just feel so much more like myself. Okay, we are getting down to the last few questions. What is your favorite TV show? Gilmore Girls is my number one favorite TV show. Since I have been in high school, it has been my favorite show. Year after year, I am watching Gilmore Girls. It is often streaming in the background. It is my favorite. I love it so much, especially during the fall season. The fall episodes are just 10 out of 10. The intro with the fall leaves, it always sets the vibe and the mood. What is your fall or Halloween theme for decorating this year? I am using a similar theme to what I've used before. Like I said, I do like to reuse my decor, but sometimes add in a few fun pieces. For fall decor, I am leaning into my typical orange decor. Last year, I did a more muted orange palette in the living room, and looking back, I was like, no, that is not me. I have to be orange pumpkin spice vibes. So that is what I'm doing for fall. I definitely plan on leaning into a lot of gingham vibes for my fall decor as well. I found this pillow at Marshall's. I am in love with it. But yeah, just like cozy cottage pumpkin spice fall aesthetic. And then for Halloween, I will be leaning into orange pumpkins paired with ghosties. I know I shared previously, but I have a huge collection of ghosties. Also leaning into a vintage aesthetic. So really just embracing ghost motif, jack-o'-lanterns, and blacks and oranges and whites. That is what I have planned, and I will be utilizing all of my decor from previous years. Okay, and the last question, because this one is really fun and something that I think about all the time. It is any tips on how to romanticize fall, even if you live in a climate that's eternally summer? My answer to that is to stay in delusion. Put your AC down as low as you feel comfortable. Just pretend like summer is not happening outside. What is happening in your mind can be your reality if you believe in it enough. In Austin, we do get fall, but we typically don't get it until end of October, early November. So up until then, I actually am just living in my delusional land. And with that being said, whenever I do that on Instagram and TikTok, it somewhat feels easier because I am not talking to the camera. I'm just kind of, sharing my fall content, and, no one's really questioning where I live necessarily, or I'm not really talking about my thoughts and things like that. So I was thinking about it for YouTube. It will be different because I am just sharing my life to the point where you guys know what I'm up to. You guys know where I live. We chit chat. I will probably be talking about how hot it is outside and how I continue to romanticize fall and just live in my own little world, in my own little bubble. If you see me doing that in the coming months, just be prepared. I typically live in delusion and just live in denial that summer's not happening. What's happening in my house and in my mind is all I need to keep me happy and keep me sane. Because sometimes you might be a fall lover, but you live in Texas or Arizona or Florida. It doesn't matter. Fall is a state of mind. And that brings us to the end of this Q&A video. I hope you all enjoyed. I hope you feel like you know me just a little bit better, and I hope I was able to answer some of the questions that you have. Thank you all so much for sending in those questions. I had so much fun just chatting with you about everything that makes me me. If you're new here, please subscribe. I would love to have you on this channel. We are about to dive into fall and then the holidays, the burr months. Things are going to get very fun here on this channel. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you all on the next video.